Well, thank you very much, Brandon. I appreciate that. And welcome, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here today. My name is Janet Lee Sheriff. I am the Chief Executive Officer of Golden Predator Mining Corp. And Golden Predator is solely focused on putting the Brewery Creek gold mine back into production. We are located in Canada's Yukon, and I'll walk through the presentation and give you a little bit of background about myself as we go along. And I just want to thank the organizers today for allowing me to spend some time on a nice day where there's a buying opportunity thanks to the dip in gold today. So hopefully you'll consider Golden Predator with some potential for your investment strategy. This is our disclaimer. So I will be making some forward-looking statements. So please do your own due diligence. And I'll try to catch myself along the way. I should start by saying that the photo that you see on the front cover is the Brewery Creek mine in about 45 minutes from Dawson City. It was a past producing gold mine, and they left it licensed after a dip in the gold price to about $250, if you can believe it or not. And we picked up the project in 2009. And have been working aggressively on expanding the resources and putting this back to production. So why consider Golden Predator? We are focused on restarting the Brewery Creek mine. It is a brownfield site. It is licensed for a restart. It has over 1 million ounces of oxide gold, and that is licensed for a portion of the area, and we are focused on that area of the project. The company has a track record of growing resources on the project and a demonstrated commitment to environmental, social, and governance principles. And that is one area that I am heavily involved in the company. We do see untapped exploration upside on the project beyond the existing resource that's identified. And being in a safe jurisdiction in Canada's Yukon, with a project that's over 1 million ounces indicated and inferred, safe jurisdiction, licensed, community support, we see that we've been working to de-risk the project for the benefit of the shareholders. I'm going to try and show you something on here. I don't know if I can do this for the draw function. Let's see if I can. Yes, here we go. So since we have time, I'm going to go slowly through the presentation for this. This is the Brewery Creek mine. This is a less than a year-old picture. These are existing pits along the way, here and here and up here. And this is the heap leach pad. As this is an oxide gold project, it is heap leach, and this had operated successfully for several years before gold dipped down. The trend goes this way, and we'll walk through that for you. Market cap, it's about the same right now. We're about a few cents down, about 66 million Canadian, 168 million shares issued and outstanding, 182 fully diluted. Shareholders, myself and my husband, along with Eric Sprott, hold just under 10% each. Full disclosure, my husband is the chair of the board. But we are active investors and have bought in the market. Eric's been at several prices, about 35 and about 70. Pat DeCapo and Power One have been with us for 5 years. And CIBC Private Wealth holds about 20% through a series of high net worth investors, along with Albert Friedberg holding a few percent. We have a strong board of directors. Bill Sheriff is our chair, and again, full disclosure, my spouse. Bill had built a successful uranium company called Energy Metals. It went from $1 million market cap to $1.8 billion when they sold Uranium One. He is also known as a large claim stakeholder in the Southwest U.S. and has been involved in gold mining in Nevada from his early days in the industry. Master's in geology, actively involved in overseeing the technical program with our engineers. And we also have 2 engineers on the board, Stephen Spears and Bradley Teal. And if you're not familiar with Richard Goldfarb, Rich is one of the leading experts in the world on orogenic gold systems, and he joined our board a few years ago. He is well known in the academic world, and strangely enough, did a thesis on Brewery Creek back in the 80s, long before we knew him. So, and again, I'm joined by Tony Lesiak, who is with Canaccord Investment Banking. The management team I do want to spend some time on. Let's tell you a little bit about myself and the rest of the team. I graduated economics from Queen's University in Canada. I moved to the Yukon and lived there for 25 years, working predominantly with First Nation governments and the Yukon government. I started many organizations that brought in training dollars for Aboriginal training, and I left that to work with public companies as a way to bridge First Nation opportunities and public companies trying to advance mining projects in the Yukon. I've been the CEO for 5 years. Before that, I was the Vice President of Communications. And I've really focused on the social license and view that as equally important to the mining license and the water license. And it's something that it takes time to acquire. And we've done some very innovative programs. Happy to say that I'm on the PDAC Indigenous Affairs Committee, and I greatly enjoy expanding my knowledge with my colleagues across the country. Mike Myslowski is our Chief Operating Officer. Mike is a mine operator. He's worked with Coeur and Teck, operating mines around the world. And he was also with Brewery Creek and our project when we first picked it up, and helped to build our ounces from 150,000 ounces to over 1.1 million and growing. He is joined by Jim Hesketh, and Jim Hesketh brings a vast amount of knowledge to the project as somebody who has started mines and operated mines in Montana, California, Nevada, and the Yukon. Importantly, Jim has restarted a heap leach mine in California and in a very stringent regulatory regime. And he brings that knowledge as we restart Brewery Creek, which is a very similar operation. He also was with Rothschild when they retired the debt at Brewery Creek. So he knew the project technically and he liked the project. So he's come in with a very practical, pragmatic approach to restarting. And it's extremely important to have the right team as we go into building a mine. It takes a lot of different skills. Ed Hubert and Joe Harrington bring knowledge on the environmental and geochem end of things. Ed was the Deputy Minister of Yukon Environment when Brewery Creek was operating before. So he brings a strong knowledge on the financial security end and reclamation. And Joe Harrington is a reclamation expert who has worked with us for many years. Jeff Carey is our site geologist, and he has worked with many majors, and he's been actively involved with us in building our resources. Golden Predator is extremely committed to ESG principles. We believe in mutually beneficial agreements that see the community come along with us. And we've really approached this right from the beginning as a good neighbor policy. We are operating in your backyard and we are good neighbors. And it's important for us to make sure that the local community and the First Nation have the opportunity to create wealth from our project. We've been very different in our approach. We've created business incubators. We've helped form catering companies. We've held an elders in residence program where the elders live with us every day at camp. We've held a summit, as you see in the picture, with the elders and the youth. So they are contributing directly. We approach community engagement like this as different from consultation, which is a political or a government process that's also on the same track and equally important, but different. We've also started the Yukon Mint, and the Yukon Mint, as you see the coin there, is about putting Aboriginal art on coins and making sure all parts of the community benefit from what we're doing. We're proud to say that we have 50% First Nation employment and 50% of our expenditures are spent in the Yukon. This is something that becomes very important as COVID affects our lives. There's lockdowns, there's quarantines, and Brewery Creek is in a very beneficial position, being so close to the community of Dawson, where we could see people living and working from home and see more people staying in the area and helping manage risks that are created from isolated camps. We still have a camp on site, but we don't have to use it all the time. A couple of other assets I just want to talk about to get out of the way so we can focus on Brewery Creek. As I've mentioned, the Yukon Mint, we also have 300,000 shares of Seabridge Gold from selling a project called Three Aces, and we have a 35% ownership in Taku Gold. We have a healthy treasury because of this. We have about 8 million in cash and equivalents, and that isn't enough to put the mine into production, but it's more than enough to keep us going on all of our plans without draining our treasury and diluting our stock. The other asset that I would like to talk about is Group 11, of which Golden Predator will own 20%. Group 11 came out of some work that the company did related to a project that we sold called Three Aces. We built the first test processing plant in the Yukon to look at a non-cyanide alternative to processing. We worked with a company called EnviroLeach Technologies and used their environmentally friendly solution, which is non-cyanide. It's all FDA approved, patented, in a mobile batch unit that we built in order to process our sulfides. Again, this started because we didn't want to take the economic opportunities out of the Yukon. We wanted to work there, employ people there, build infrastructure there. And then it just fell into place that this non-cyanide solution worked on our sulfides. We had over 90% recovery and worked faster than cyanide. And this led to the formation of a company so we can focus on Brewery Creek called Group 11. And Group 11 is going to be owned by Golden Predator, EnviroLeach, and Encore Energy. And we focus this company on in-place mineral extraction. And it's seeking to be an alternative to conventional mining. Conventional mining will always have its place. This is something similar to what they did in the uranium industry about the 50s to the 60s, where you don't build open pits, you don't build heap leach fields, you don't build tailings, you don't go underground. It's more of a water treatment type of facility where you pump the environmentally friendly solution into the mineralized zone, and then the gold comes out in a liquid, and then it's processed in a water treatment like plant. The good folks at Encore Energy are experts in this type of extraction and have held several patents on it, as well as been involved in the situ recovery in uranium. So we see this opportunity between these three companies to look at something that could potentially be very disruptive in the mining space and provide an alternative that we see the global community is demanding. And that is not going to distract us, as it will be a separate company because we are solely focused on reopening the Brewery Creek gold mine. This is a photo of the mine when it was operating between 96 and 02. It has a 4 million ton a year mining license that was left in place. And what you're looking at here is the, I'm going to go to the drawing function again. This is the access road in here. The resources are down this way or up this way. This is the heap leach pad where you take the ore or material from the pits, you place it on the pad. They wet it with cyanide. It's all built. There's liners under here, so it's a closed system. And this is the ADR plant. This processes the solution as it comes off the heap leach, and these ponds are to protect the environment as the solution's flowing. And it's all in a closed system. There's no discharge to surface. There's no water discharge. And this operated successfully from 96 to about 2000 when they started to slow it down, but it was still processing. I need to mention that regardless of Group 11 looking at new technology, which will take time, Brewery Creek is a cyanide operation. It will operate under the International Cyanide Code. And when a company does this, it's operated safely. And they have a track record at this project to prove that. So the Brewery Creek mine is licensed for a timely restart. And it is a heap leach mine, and the processing methods are proven by past production. We have above average grades, over a gram per ton for a heap leach operation. We presently have a bankable feasibility study underway to confirm capital costs and production levels for a restart as early as 2022, with development the preceding year. And we also have a mineral resource estimate underway that's going to update our 2019 mineral resource estimate that has indicated an inferred of 1.1 million ounces. I should mention that the mineral resource does not include, that's listed on the screen, does not include the 2019 drilling, and it does not include resources left on the heap leach pad. What you see there with the heap leach pad, the previous operator ran run of mine. Run of mine means you don't crush it, and they felt that they would get better recovery than they actually did. But when you leave the run of mine ore on the pad, it means that there's still ore there that hasn't been processed. And we've done a series of, we've researched the historical records, and we see about 200,000 ounces left on the pad before you start increasing the resource with bringing new material. And we think we can get about 50% recovery based on metallurgical tests and column leach tests that we've been running over the past 6 months. That's a significant boost to the economics of the project. And it also is the best environmental practice that you start from a foundation where you know everything that's on the pad and you bring the new material to it. So a quick overview, 100% owned by Golden Predator. We have year-round access from Dawson City. We're about 55 kilometers, about 25 kilometers from the Dawson City Airport. Grid power is nearby, and we are working with the First Nation to look at that potential. You do need diesel as a backup because you can't have power interruptions. So that is already planned. We have a 180 square kilometer project with many exploration targets still untested, and a socioeconomic accord with the Tigris and their support for a resumption of mineral production under our licenses, and then expansion of our licenses to include new resources across the project. With a lot of infrastructure left in place, it helps keep our capital costs for development down. And to that, in addition to the licensed heap leach pad with 3 cells remaining, we have a camp for 75 people, office building, haul roads, shop. And on top of that, we have experienced operators that are working with us in order to advance the project. What you see here is a map of the area. Brewery Creek is in red, and the Dawson City Airport on the way to Dawson. The gray, 2 shades of gray are First Nation land. And to that, it's extremely important to work with the First Nation and the community as we go forward. Our socioeconomic accord only covers the Brewery Creek project, but you'll see we have neighbors. This is a close-up of the project, 180 square kilometers. What you see in the beige, I'm going to try the drawing function again, in this area is where the license is held for mining and water. This is called the reserve trend. There's 3 trends on the property. We have focused our attention on building up the resources in this licensed area with plans to expand over time to areas where we've done more drilling outside of the mining license that we see as future potential. There's a large porphyry at depth in the south that's exciting, and there's opportunity as we move east. This blue is the heap leach pad that you've seen in the picture, and these green pits are the existing pits, and in the yellow, new resources. So we focused in to look at drilling between the pits. Viceroy, who operated the mine before, they chased the gold price from 400 down to 250. So they didn't have a lot of budget for exploration, but they left a very nice roadmap, which we've expanded on. So this past year, we drilled between the pits, and the focus was to upgrade and expand resources as a means of looking at potentially connecting the pits. And it's been very successful. Before I go on further, I'm going to move to a video, and we're going to fly over the area. And so what you're seeing here is the heap leach pad that's in blue on the map. And we're flying from west to east. So you see the access road, the camp off to the left, the ponds in the foreground. And the blue that you're seeing now, this is along the reserve trend. These are the pits that were historically operated by the previous operator, and they left resources. This is about an 8 or 9 kilometer trend where we've been drilling between the pits and upgrading the resource. So what you're going to see here are some drill collars. The lines that are vertical show where we drilled in 2019 in order to look at growing the resource and expanding. So we had some good luck down in what we call the camp zone, fairly close to the camp. And then we spent a lot of time in Foster's and Kokanee and Golden drilling. And it's looking, and this is going to come out in our mineral resource estimate that's coming out this month. The results will be known, but the economics are increasing, and looking at joining the pits, which changes the dynamics of the project, makes it bigger, makes it more economic. You have bigger equipment. Instead of a series of small pitlets, you have bigger pits. And the mineral resource estimate and the feasibility study will outline the capital costs and the operating costs and the schedule for putting this back into production. This was a very important year for us with all of this drilling, and there's about 137 holes that will be incorporated into the mineral resource estimate that's coming out this month. So then you start seeing this in the topography, and you see quite a nice downward slope back towards the heap. You take the material from the pits and you place it on the heap. So I'll move back to the slides. So again, that's just what you were looking at. So a nice topography, fairly gently rolling hills, make it nice to operate. This is a map of the drilling that you just saw on the leapfrog video, showing the drill holes between the pits. This really showed that we have a 9 kilometer mineralized structure in the reserve trend that's in the licensed area. Again, the mineral resource estimate will come out this month. We'll see the changes and to the hopefully the growth of the resource estimate. And this will also feed into, and a very important piece to feed into, the bankable feasibility study. Kapuskasity is doing the restart study. Tetra Tech out of Colorado is doing the feasibility level mine planning that will be incorporated into the bankable feasibility study that CAPIS is also producing. I mentioned the resources outside of the licensed area. This is covered by an exploration permit, and we see great potential in these areas. We have shown that the company has the ability to grow the resources, and the area in the south, the giant porphyry, is looking like it's something that's quite different than we have in the oxide resources. This would be sulfide, and it's a lower grade, but it's looking like it's quite large, and we're looking forward to exploring that. We are planning on our exploration budgets being incorporated into our production. So we're using internal resources in order to grow the project and extend it past what we see as presently, based on previous studies and forward-looking statement of the feasibility study, a mine life that has about 10 years and can continue to grow. Our plan, in order to advance this into production in a timely way, we would have the potential, pending the feasibility study and a production decision by the board, to go into development in 2021 and be able to start processing at the heap leach pad by the next year. We would seek to complete the original mine plan that's part of the license and work with the First Nation and the Yukon government to expand the mine beyond the current area. We see a lot of potential to increase the oxide resources, and over time look at the sulfide potential, which is in the southern part of the project. Again, all of this is subject to a feasibility study and also taking into account COVID and respecting the community's needs around protecting people. So in a staged approach, cells 1 through 7 on the heap do have material on it, about 10 million tons that we'd reprocess and add new material along the way from the operational pits. There are 3 cells that are licensed that have not been used, which would increase our capacity to about 15 million tons. And as we reprocess, we'd also be able to remove some waste and expand the life of the heap. So at present, this heap would last quite a number of years and be able to fulfill the mine license and the mine plan. We do have metallurgical work underway that's coming out in the resource estimate and feasibility study that is proving up our recovery rates. And we do see about 50% of the contained ounces on the pad being able to be recovered as well. These really just looking at expanding on the plan. We complete the mine plan. A number of resources are included in that licensed area, and this will be changing when we have the resource update this month. We would also plan on, in terms of restarting, we would reline the ponds. We would build out the 3 new cells that are designed and permitted. And we would build the ADR plant and the lab. The capital costs for this are quite reasonable. It would be under 100 million US, and the final numbers would be part of the study. So that is my guidance. We had studies in the past that should prove this up as well. If you want to do your own due diligence and look at historical costs. All-in costs will be determined in the feasibility, but we're looking at about $800. And again, do your own due diligence. This gets us started and completing the original mine plan, and then allows us time to license new resources that would be incorporated, and really gives us a 3 to 5 year timeline in order to bring those in and do additional metallurgical work and some exploration between the pits. going back to the company's proven ability to increase resources. As mentioned, we started the project with about 150,000 ounces and now have about 760 indicated and 440,000 inferred. And this is, again, before our new resource. So still a lot of targets across the property, and we do see the potential to continue to see the exploration upside. This map here just shows the three trends that we see on the property. We're talking about the reserve trend in the, sorry, I'm going to go try this again. This is where we spent most of our time on the reserve trend, but there's these two trends as well that offer a lot of opportunity. And this is really something that's given us a roadmap on how to proceed. This is a soil geochem. As you can see, it really gives a great overlay of where you can start to focus. So again, this area here is that future potential, but this is where we're spending our time right here. So our work plan for this year. This month, we will have a new mineral resource estimate that will incorporate the drilling from last year. We are looking at a metallurgical drill program this September to bring in some information we require for the feasibility study. By the year end, a bankable feasibility study that would allow for the expansion of mining activities and mine plans to really move on a timely basis towards a production decision and financing potential. We are working to expand the mining permits and do see a lot of the exploration potential that we could look at with revenue. And that's what's important to us, is to get into that revenue position. As mentioned, we have other assets that give us a healthy treasury and some exposure to some new technology. And just some photos of Brewery Creek. I think we're pretty well wrapped up. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate the organizers putting this together. I hope that you see an opportunity for consideration of Golden Predator into your investment strategy with invested management, commitment to working with the community, resources that are growing, and a bankable feasibility study that could lead the way to a producing mine in a timely basis. And with that, I'm going to ask Brandon to join us and take some questions. And I thank everybody for your time.
Absolutely. And thank you for your time as well. We'll go right into some of these questions here. And there's just a little bit of a sound loop there, Janet. So I've just muted your side, and we'll go back and forth so we don't have a sound loop for everyone there. But the first one is from Frank. He's asking, what is the life of the mine?
Oh, thanks, Brandon. This will be confirmed by an independent bankable feasibility study. So I just want to make that statement. But as it presents right now, we're looking at about a 10-year mine life before we expand on the resources outside of the licensed area. So the beige area that you see on the maps, that provides about a 10-year life.
Perfect. I appreciate that. Here's another one actually from Frank as well. Can you tell me more about the Yukon as a mining jurisdiction in itself?
Mm-hmm. The Yukon has been mining for about 100 years. It became famous with the Klondike Gold Rush, and that was in the Dawson City area, which is close to Brewery Creek. So they have a history of mining. It's a safe jurisdiction. They're well intended. They have 3 mines, but I would say the Yukon is a young jurisdiction now, with land claims and a growing population from outside the Yukon. They are learning, but there is a desire to see mining done, as they say, in the right way. My answer to that is there's only one way to do mining the right way. So I think people can look and see 3 operating mines in the Yukon and a potential and an understanding that mining is the best industry to help rural communities create wealth. And the Yukon is very well known for its mineral resources and has great potential to help rural Canada that way.
Absolutely. We have another question here. This is from Mark Beeman. Are there any Yukon Mint coins available?
We have sold out of our all of our coins, and we have a new coin being designed, and it will be announced soon for 2020. We're quite excited about that one, and we are actually going to be doing that coin and that design in silver as well. We're seeing the rising price of gold, and it's starting to put some gold coins out of the reach of some collectors. So we're going to offer a 10th ounce gold coin as part of the mix, as well as a 1 ounce, and a silver coin. But we're very excited. The design has been selected. It's being mocked up at the Mint now and will be announced shortly. And I think it's something that's going to be very well received by the Yukon community.
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting on that. The next is from Tom. He asks, how will you finance everything? Meaning, is it shares or debentures, etc.? And what are the projected capital costs?
I'll do the second question first. Capital costs will come out in the study, but it's under 100 million US. I need to clarify US. And there's about $50 million worth of infrastructure left on site from the past operators. So it really does bring it down into a reasonable budget, considering what you see, the capital costs for putting a mine into production. Based on about a 4 million ton, it's about a 75,000 ounce a year producer before we expand the licenses. And we have NDAs or confidentiality agreements with several funders and mining companies that are looking at us to finance us. It would be our preference to take all debt because the capital costs are low compared to our market cap. That said, it will be evaluated by the board, and we'll probably see a mix of some debt and some equity and some warrants. But it would be our preference to have as little dilution as possible.
Absolutely. To go another one here. This is from M. Stadnik. Hi, Janet. For us knowledgeable with Seabridge and how they may evolve the possible spinouts or being sold now, do you foresee handling the 300,000 shares? I think I read that wrong. Forgive me. They may evolve with possible spinouts or being sold. How do you foresee handling the 300,000 shares? Thanks.
Okay. Golden Predator holds 300,000 shares of Seabridge Gold. It's doubled since we completed the transaction for a property that allowed us to acquire those shares. We have no plans on disposing of them. We have an investment committee that's been mandated with an option writing program on Seabridge shares. So they are skilled in how to manage this and intend on keeping them. We believe in Seabridge. We think they're great operators. They've got a great track record in exploration, and we'd like to see the upside as gold goes up, and Seabridge will too.
Absolutely. This is a follow-up question, and now continuing from Frank's earlier question. It says, continuing Frank's question about Yukon as a mining district, how do you see things evolving with the majors and M&A in the area? Thank you. Janet, this is my largest junior holding, is what this person is saying as well.
That's a really good question, and I'm gonna think for a moment on that. And again, this is my opinion, and I'm not the market expert. That's my board is stronger than I am in this. But I think that as gold goes up, we're going to see a lot more opportunity for majors to be picking up properties, exploration properties that have resources attached to it. I would like to think that the Yukon will see more majors, and with mines opening, recently Alexco acquired their water license. Minto's operating. It's a copper project. Victoria is operating. It's a heap leach operation a few hours from our project. That's showing that the district is maturing and there's an opportunity for investment. We've been asked if Golden Predator is planning on selling out, or is it going to operate? And it's our intention to put the mine into production. And we think that the best thing we can do for our company is to keep on that path. And, if you get noticed, you get noticed. But I think the best thing we can do for the district is to keep pushing to production and show how successful we can all be and draw more investment in that way. Does that answer your question?
I believe we'll see if she comes back, or if that
Yeah.
person will come back with it, but I believe it does. And thank
Yeah,
you for that. For thinking about
if I'm not answering something properly, please.
Yeah. This next one is from Bobby. Is there general public and First Nations supportive of the mine development? Good question.
Yeah, really good question. Viceroy Resources operated the Brewery Creek mine from 96 to 02, and they were very progressive. They were ahead of their time on their socioeconomic accord they had then. They invested in the community significantly. They hired and had 60% of their labor force in the Yukon. And they operated as a very progressive company and put a very high bar. And it was my goal that we would exceed their high bar all the time. So they left a very good feeling about the mine. It was reclaimed temporarily between when they stopped and we started, to award-winning standards for reclamation. And they showed that you didn't need to spend millions of dollars over time and expend public funds. They detoxified the heap in 8 months. And we've run a water sampling program for over 25 years between the two proponents, showing that the environment is protected. So the community involvement, the good feelings that the company left, our proactive approach to involving community, the high environmental standards that have been at the property really have allowed the community to feel involved and optimistic about what the project has been and can be. It's important that we work aggressively to provide opportunities and provide business growth and training opportunities. And I think because we've done that, we've seen a positive approach to the company and the project. And to that, the First Nation, the Trundiquitchen First Nation, has provided us with the socioeconomic accord, which is support to go forward. But they've also passed a council resolution supporting the restart. Now, it's never easy, and it's not a gimme. You don't just walk away and say you've got it. You're working, and the best way I can describe it, which may sound silly, is working with community and First Nations. It's like a marriage. If you get married and then call yourself done, it's not going to last. But if you work on it as a commitment day to day, that support grows. But they do ask tough questions, and they expect honest answers.
Yeah, very well said on that point. Our next question here is from Victor, and he asks, what's the potential financing structure for the mining project?
I think we might have touched on this before, so if I don't answer it fully, please have him respond. But it would be a debt financing, preferably. We'd know after the feasibility study is complete and the board makes a decision on our options. But it would be to see a repayment over a reasonable period, so we won't, within the life of the mine. So some equity, some debt.
Absolutely. This one's coming from Dean. He says, "Thank you, Janet, for your presentation. What are your thoughts on any of the new mining technologies as having value for robots, IoT and mining, internet connected sensors? Is Golden Predator looking at any of these new technologies?"
We have 20% ownership in Group 11, and Group 11 is looking at cyanide alternatives for processing without moving a rock. So really, it's like a water treatment plant where you pipe in the solution to the ground and you extract it in a liquid form. So that would be a non-disruptive technology that we're focused on. That's separate from what we're doing at Brewery Creek. I would say the technology that we're looking at for Brewery Creek is pretty tried and true with heap leach mining. Robots, no. We less heavy equipment if we have larger pits. There's the potential for conveyors, which would allow us to have less of a carbon footprint. But the technology is pretty much self-contained in the ADR plant. But yes, on the cyanide-free, a definite disruptive technology there.
Absolutely. And it'll be very interesting when you start seeing more and more EV machinery coming in to mine EV and all these different types of things as well. It's amazing how technology continues to change all this. And like yourself, like you're just saying, if it makes sense, why not start adapting it or adopting it with your company as well? So very interesting question there from Dean. This next one is from, again, M. Stadnik. I think this is more actually just confirmation saying, yes, you answered the M&A question. Thank you, Yukon. Is the next golden triangle? Predator shares will catch up. And for the record, Seabridge has told me personally they like everything Predator is doing. So that's not a question, but it's good to hear. So I read it nonetheless.
Thank you. Thank you. I wanted to go back to something about, I think Dean was asking about the technology. Mm-hmm. There's a website for Group 11 if you want to learn more about in situ recovery technology and in-place mining. It's gr11tech.com. And there's a very basic presentation that could give some education on the in-place mining options.
Absolutely. And thank you for that. We'll go to our last question of today. And this is from Miko again. It's a broader question, but it's what's the all-in sustaining cost?
That will be the all-in sustaining cost will come. I think I could offer that answer with a bit more confidence after the resource estimate comes out and the bankable feasibility study. But I think you could look at an old PEA that we did for Brewery Creek in 2014, and I believe it was about 800 US. But I would have to double check. But I'm willing to follow up on that question. But I think it was about 800 US.
Gotcha. Well, Jen, I appreciate you taking this time, not just to go through this presentation, but all the answers as well. And once again, to all of our investors in here as well, I appreciate your time for making this important to yourself and hearing about either an opportunity you're currently in or hearing about an opportunity that, you're hearing maybe for the first time and you're being able to expose yourself to all the different companies that are out there and the various different metals that they're exploring, exploring, whatever have you. So I appreciate that very much. And Jen, if there's someone where you'd like them to turn maybe to a website or something like that, just to conclude the presentation for today.
Yes, I should have left the contact page up for our discussions. So again, thank you to the organizers for this forum. Greatly appreciate the opportunity to present. If you want to contact us after, info@goldenpredator.com or www.goldenpredator.com. Any questions that I've not answered or any questions you think of after, please contact us. I hope you follow us, and I hope you consider Golden Predator within your investment strategy. Stay strong. It's gold's a little weak today, but we've got a bright future. And at these prices, I think projects like Brewery Creek are something that you can definitely want to follow. So thank you again. And thank you very much, Brandon, for your time. I appreciate it.